I find Maria to be a deeply tragic character. I do not think she begins her story as a villain. She is someone trapped and alone in a nightmare world, and the only other person she can interact with is James, who does not want her, who does not care about her, and who would gladly leave her behind if it meant finding the person he's actually looking for. Maria is a character who devolves over the course of the story. At the start, she is definitely pretty manipulative, but she also has these positive qualities. She is kind of playful and romantic. She is shown to feel protective towards Laura. She genuinely seems to want to help the girl. But as her circumstances become worse and worse, or perhaps as she comes to a better understanding of just how doomed she really is, all of those positive qualities disappear. She becomes more and more menacing and sinister and antagonistic, until finally she transforms into a horrific monster, all of her humanity torn away. Just like Pyramid Head and all of the other monsters throughout the game, Maria is something born of the strange and undefined spiritual power of Silent Hill, but she is also very different from all those others. The monsters of Silent Hill 2 are faceless, lacking individuality, and basically mindless. They do not appear to possess any true will of their own, whereas Maria seems to be an actual sentient living being with her own thoughts and feelings and fears and desires, even though those thoughts and feelings are all connected to James in some way. She is a doomed character, someone who will never have the chance to live a normal life, never get a chance to survive for longer than maybe a few hours at most. And when she realizes this, when she realizes that she is trapped, that she will never escape, that is when she finally transforms into this twisted monstrosity. At the end of the game, when she becomes this hideous nightmare creature, that is really her raging against the iron bars of her prison, against the horrific nature of her own existence. Because when James finally learns to let go, to embrace the truth, she is supposed to disappear or self-destruct in the same way that all the other manifestations of his guilt and shame do. But she refuses. She becomes angry and resentful. She decides that she is going to stick around. She will not let him move on. And that refusal is ultimately proof of her humanity and personhood. In this moment, maybe for the first time in the story, she is making a truly independent choice of her own personal free will. She is choosing to fight against her own fate, and there is nothing more human than that. So, Maria can be understood through her relationships with three other characters. First and most obviously, her relationship with James, which begins as playful, flirty, and openly seductive. She tries to play the role of damsel in distress to James' knight in shining armor. And she also plays the role of dark seductress, femme fatale. James has this morally pure goal of finding his lost wife, while Maria tries to lead him astray, to draw him off the righteous path, to tempt him with sinful pleasures like sex and alcohol. But all of these roles fall apart when they reach the hospital. As a manifestation of James' memories of his late wife, she is incapacitated by the same illness, and is later brutally killed by Pyramid Head. When she is reborn in the Labyrinth, her behavior becomes far more menacing than it was before. She is jaded and cynical and sort of fairy-like here, unaffected by the grotesque and fantastical things happening all around her, a creature at home in the nightmare. This time, she dies quietly off-screen of the same illness that killed Mary. And in the end, in her final scene, once again reborn, she becomes openly antagonistic. By refusing to fade away, she becomes the final obstacle James must overcome in order to escape from Silent Hill. Though that does depend on which ending we consider canon. I've always thought that the leave and in-water endings fit the themes of the story most appropriately, but the ending where Maria actually survives and leaves the town with him is really fascinating too, and we'll talk about that more later. Anyway, the second of Maria's defining relationships is with Laura. Maria and Laura never actually interact or even appear on screen together at the same time, but Maria's character is surprisingly focused on the girl. She spends a lot of time in this story attempting to find Laura so that she can protect her, so that Laura will not be alone. This reveals aspects of her character we never see in her interactions with James. She has these motherly and nurturing and benevolent qualities that she is never allowed to fully embrace. By the time she is reborn in the Labyrinth, these motherly qualities have completely vanished. She no longer cares about Laura or anyone else. This relationship collapses before it ever really begins. The third and final defining relationship in her story is with Pyramid Head, which is a relationship entirely based on fear and pain and death. Pyramid Head kills her twice, and both times in brutal, terrifying, and horrific ways. It is this experience of death and terror that ultimately unravels her character, when she loses all of her more positive qualities, her playfulness and protectiveness. It is Pyramid Head who forces her to become the worst version of herself. A lot of fans talk about Pyramid Head as if he is this misunderstood guy, who is just trying to help out. He is a benevolent, guiding angel, leading James to let go of his denial and accept the truth. He is really just an avant-garde therapist with unconventional therapeutic techniques. But Maria, oh boy, she is the really bad one. She is the one you have to watch out for. She is the true monster of the story. I think this is an oversimplification of both characters and their roles in the story. Both Maria and Pyramid Head are manifestations of James' emotions, and because his emotions are complicated and contradictory, so are they. Maria is manipulative and defined by this inability to let go or move on, but also she is lonely and vulnerable in seeking companionship. Pyramid Head does end up helping James accept the truth, but he is also a creature whose entire existence is based on the emotions of guilt and fear and aggression and a desire for punishment. When he kills Maria, he is brutally murdering a sentient living person who does not deserve to be treated that way. Finally, there is also the Born of a Wish prologue chapter added in the definitive edition of the original game, but not included in the remake, or at least not as of the time this video is being posted. In that prologue, we see Maria before she meets James. She is a character who is utterly alone, trapped in a bizarre, surreal world full of monsters that she does not understand and cannot escape. She feels so lonely and so hopeless that she contemplates suicide, but ultimately chooses to live, to wait for James' arrival, for her one and only chance at companionship, which is all the more tragic because we, the audience, already know that relationship will never work out. That prologue paints her in a far more sympathetic light than the story of the main game. So what I want to do in this video is follow her story from beginning to end, to watch each scene to see how her character disintegrates over the course of the story, how she slowly loses everything, and becomes this hopeless, menacing nightmare who refuses to allow James to escape at the end. Okay, let's start at the start, with her introduction in Rosewater Park. We are going to watch that scene together, and as you watch, ask yourself, what are Maria's motivations and how are the developers revealing those motivations to us? What does she want and how do we know? Alright, here it is.
Mary? No. You're not.
Do I look like your girlfriend?
No, my late wife. I can't believe it. Your face, your voice, you could be...
My name is Maria. I don't look like a ghost, do I? See? Warm.
Sorry, I got confused.
Hey. Where are you going?
I need to find Mary.
Didn't you say she died?
Oh. Yeah. 3 years ago. It's just... I got a letter from her.
A letter?
I know how it sounds. I don't...
Hey. It's okay. So, what did the letter say?
She said she was waiting for me. In our special place.
And that's here? Anyway, I haven't seen her. Is this your only special place?
I don't know anymore. There was something I can't quite.
Hey! I think I might know. I mean, there's this one place. Not far from here.
What kind of place?
The kind two lovers might call special. I can show you if you want. Unless you have somewhere else to be. Something else to do. Hey, easy there. I'm just messing with you. Come on. It's this way.
You're coming with me? Can't you just tell me where it is?
You're just gonna leave me here? Alone? With all these monsters around?
No, I just...
Is it because I remind you of her? You loved her, didn't you?
I think her motivations are very clear here. Maria wants James. She almost immediately hyper-focuses on him. She very quickly initiates physical contact. She is flirty and seductive. She is touchy and pushy. She distracts him, pulls him away from his journey to find his wife. At the end of the scene, when he gazes out across the lake, saying that he can almost remember something, that is him about to come to the realization that Mary is waiting for him at the hotel, or at least something related to Mary is waiting for him at the hotel. Notice the way Maria moves into center frame. The way she stands between him and his true destination, interrupts him before he can come to that realization, and instead leads him in the exact opposite direction. That final shot, which drifts over the lake and shows us the light on the other side, that is what she prevented him from seeing. And it does feel intentional. She is purposely attempting to insert herself as the new focal point of his journey to replace Mary. And in this first scene, there is definitely something subtly sinister and unsettling about her behavior. It is so inconsistent with everything else that is happening around them. Her behavior is just too ordinary in an extraordinary situation. By this point in the story, James has already encountered some really freaky and crazy and terrifying stuff. And then here is Maria acting like nothing is wrong, apparently just trying to get laid. All of the other characters we have met have been searching for something, been focused on their own goals, their own stories. Like Angela is focused on her mother, Eddie is looking for somewhere to run away to. But Maria has no reason to be in this town. She is only focused on James, and it's weird. And of course, all of that ignores the bizarre similarities between her and his dead wife. Even their names are eerily similar. So why? Why does she want James? Why is she trying so hard to distract him from his wife and get him to focus on her instead? Well, Maria is a manifestation of James' desires and emotions, of his psyche. He wants his wife back for her to live again, and so by the strange power of Silent Hill, here she is, returned to the flesh. But James' emotions are twisted and warped by anger and guilt and lust, and so this reborn version of his wife emerges from the fog twisted and changed too. More sexualized, more voluptuous, more selfish, more desperate for human contact. But let's look at this from Maria's perspective. What is going on in her head? Going forward, it will begin to become clear that a lot of her behavior is driven by instinct. To put it simply, she does what feels right. Silent Hill's Otherworld has manifested her to fulfill a particular role, and when she gets closer to that role, she seems to feel better. So she wants to be with James because that is where she is supposed to be. That is where she was born to be. And there's another motivation here too. Going forward, we will also learn that Maria is a genuinely lonely person. She wants companionship. She wants a relationship. She wants romance. She wants a family. She wants to be with others. She wants to be around both James and later Laura. Not all of her motivations are sinister. And as I said at the beginning of the video, without James, she would be completely isolated, completely alone forever. And I think that possibility really frightens her. Unfortunately for her, her seduction is not working here. Again and again, James refuses her advances. He does not want to go with her, and so she tries a different tactic. When he is about to leave without her, all of a sudden she acknowledges the existence of the monsters in the town and uses them as a way to bind James to her. She appeals to his sense of empathy. Would you really leave me alone here in this dangerous place? And finally, this one works. They leave together. The remake has added a ton of interactions between them during this section of the game that go a long way towards further developing her character. For example, in dialogue, she pushes James to talk about himself, to talk about his late wife. This is her trying to forge an emotional bond between them. She is playful. She makes a lot of jokes. She reacts to things in the environment or things he does, like when he breaks windows or when he falls into a stupor in the save menu. As I discussed earlier, she is the damsel in distress to his knight in shining armor. She behaves as if she is defenseless against these monsters, and he has to come to her rescue. This allows him to live out a certain type of fantasy. He is able to successfully protect her from monsters in a way he was never able to protect his wife from her illness. And she is still manipulative. When James begins walking towards the hotel, towards his true destination, she tries again and again to get him to turn around, to go where she wants instead. Finally, there is this moment when you examine a statue of a woman who was accused of unstated crimes and murdered by the people of Silent Hill in the past. James asks, "Who was she?" And Maria answers,
Just a woman. Killed for no real fault of her own by moral, upstanding folk. Common theme, I guess.
What do you mean?
In history, you know?
I think it's clear that Maria identifies with this woman, that she feels as if she is being persecuted for no fault of her own, that she feels as if she has done nothing wrong and is being punished unfairly. It is important to remember that Maria did not choose to be born. She did not choose to be a facsimile of James' dead wife. She was forced into this situation. In some ways, she is doing the only thing she can do, given her circumstances. Next, she leads James to the Heaven's Night strip club, where she apparently works as a stripper, again connecting her character to the themes of sexuality and lust. In the original game, the characters quickly pass through this location without stopping, but in the remake, the developers have added a whole new scene. We are going to watch it together, and as we do, we are going to play a game. This is by far Maria's most manipulative scene in the story. I have identified at least 5 different methods of manipulation she attempts to use, 5 distinct strategies to distract him and seduce him. Only one of those 5 strategies seems to have any real effect on James though. So as you watch, see if you can find all 5, and for bonus points, figure out which one actually worked. Okay, here it is.
What? Oh, come on, don't give me that look. I was just kidding. Then again, now that we're here, can't we stay? Just for a little while. catch our breath before we head back out there?
I don't have time to take a break. Mary could be out there, waiting for me.
I know. It's just... this place, this whole thing, it's like a nightmare. I just wanted to get away from it, even for a second. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I guess this place is getting to me, too. Am I crazy? You know, for thinking she could be here.
Crazy is one word for it, I guess. I can think of another.
What's that?
Hopeful.
Well, that's a nicer way of putting it.
Here.
What are you doing?
Something to take the edge off. No? You sure? Fine. Be that way. Here's to... hope. Undying.
The first method can be seen when she comes out on stage, grabs the pole, and does a little spin. This is manipulation by sexuality, and when it fails, when James does not show any interest, she plays it off as a joke and moves on to the next. Next, she attempts manipulation by appealing to his need for rest. What if we just stop and rest for a minute, just for a little while? Take the load off, man. And again, it fails. James wants to go find his wife right now. He does not have time for relaxation. And then Maria attempts manipulation by damsel in distress, by appealing to his sense of empathy, his protectiveness. Oh, I'm just a scared little delicate flower who cannot defend herself, lost in a dangerous world, overwhelmed by stress, in need of a big strong man to help me. Oh no! She even pretends to be on the verge of tears, tears which suspiciously disappear only moments later. This is the manipulation strategy that works. This is the one that gets James to pause, to focus on her. Somewhere at his core, James is a protective type of personality. He wants to help others. The next is manipulation by adulation. This is one I discussed in detail back in my video on Odin from God of War Ragnarok. One of Odin's most effective manipulation techniques was heaping a mixture of exaggerated criticism and compliments upon other characters. Compliments are a really easy way to get other people to like you, and that is what Maria is doing when James asks her, "Am I crazy?" And she gazes longingly into his eyes and says, "No, you're hopeful." And the final attempt is manipulation by alcohol. Get them drunk and you can get a lot more out of them too. But this one does not work. James refuses the offer of a drink. In addition to the manipulation, I think there is a lot of sadness in Maria's dialogue and behavior here too. She seems genuinely disappointed and maybe even a little hurt that he refuses to spend time with her. It is important to remember that James is literally the only other living person Maria has ever met or will ever have any interaction with. She is not necessarily manipulating him because she wants to hurt him, but because she genuinely wants him to stay with her, wants the chance to forge an emotional connection with someone. Anyway, let's move on to the next scene, which takes place in the Moonlight Grove. This scene is also original to the remake. It was added to expand on her character and motivations. This is, I think, in contrast to the previous one, her most sympathetic scene in the story. As you watch, ask yourself, what does this scene add to her character? What do we understand about her now that we would not have otherwise if this scene was left out? Okay, here it is.
There's a story told around these parts, kind of a local legend. It tells of a woman who was cast out, sentenced to die on an island out on the lake. There was a man in town who fell madly in love with her. And every night, he would sneak out, row across the lake, bringing her food and company. And every night, she would stand there on the shore, holding a lit candle to help him find his way. But this one night, a terrible storm broke out, caught him out in the open, and it blew out the candle. Even in darkness, the man would not give up. He would not turn back. So he fought against the raging waters until finally the lake took him. They say even then, the woman never lost hope. She kept coming out at night, kept lighting the candle to bring her beloved home, to lead him to shore.
Maria tells a story about a tragic, undying love. A love that survives even death. A love so powerful that it becomes a legend, inspiring generations of young romantic couples. You can hear a yearning in her voice. It is clear that she wants this. She wants a man who will love her so much that he is willing to flaunt the laws of his people, risk the judgment of his peers, willing to brave the dangerous dark waters of the lake, to travel through terrible storms, all just to reach her. This is who she wants James to be for her. That is why she is so hyper-focused on him, so touchy and pushy. This scene reveals that Maria is not just some conniving, sinister femme fatale. She is also a hopeless romantic. She holds on to this idea of an idealized fairy tale romance that will never come true. And James has no interest in any of this, any interest in her. He acts as if he is irritated by her monologue. He perceives this as a big waste of time. Once again, her attempts at seduction, at getting closer to him, are failing. There is a double irony in the story she tells. On the one hand, this fairy tale describes James' current circumstances. He loves his wife Mary so much that he is willing to go through all these horrific and terrible challenges in Silent Hill just for the near zero chance that he might get to see her again. But on the other hand, this does not describe James at all. His love for his wife was already tested by a terrible challenge, by her long, fatal illness, and he has already failed. By the end of that illness, their relationship had collapsed. Not only did he not die trying to save her, he was the one who killed her because he could not bear the stress and the grief and the resentment anymore. So this idealized perfect romance that Maria is searching for simply does not exist anywhere in this story. The next scene we are going to watch takes place in the hospital, and I think this scene reveals some really important information about what Maria is and how her emotions work. So here it is.
Maria? Hey, you okay?
I'm sorry.
That's fine. What's going on? Are you hurt?
It's nothing. Probably just a hangover.
Maybe you should rest.
Yeah. Okay. So comfy.
back as soon as I can.
I love the framing of this shot. Maria revealed in darkness, overcome by sickness. She is an amalgamation of James' feelings for and memories of his wife, and of course after her long illness. All of his memories of her are touched by that illness too, and so it manifests in Maria as well. The most fascinating part of the scene is when she lies down on this disgusting, stained mattress in the middle of this decaying, rundown, very frightening hospital, and then says, "Oh, so comfy." And no way. There is no way in hell that bed is comfortable. Hospital beds are notoriously uncomfortable even in the best of times, and this is far from the best of times. With this bizarre comment, I think the writers are trying to reveal something about how Maria's emotions work. She is not comfortable because this bed is comfortable. She is comfortable because she is falling into the role that has been laid out for her. By lying down in the hospital bed, she is behaving the correct way as a manifestation of Mary, reliving the part of the sick wife. This is what led me to my theory that Maria's behavior is driven by instinct. She does what feels right to her. She lies down in this bed because, for reasons she probably does not even understand, it gives her pleasure to do so. And I think that is the same reason she is trying so hard to be with James. She is not some master manipulator with a grand, sinister conspiracy. She is a creation with a particular role to fill, and it is not until the end of her story that she finally attempts to break out of that role. That final question, what will you do if you can't find your wife? She is hoping the answer will be that he will stay with her instead. In one of the endings, this wish does come true, but it does not turn out to be as pleasant as she had hoped, and we will discuss that more later. After this scene, James leaves Maria behind in this room while he continues to explore the hospital alone. If you return to her, she keeps asking about Laura. Have you found Laura yet? Where is she? Eventually, the hospital is transformed into a terrifying nightmare world, and this is where James reunites with her. I think this is the scene where Maria's collapse truly begins, where she is set on the downward journey that will end with her character transforming into that hideous monster we talked about earlier. And as you watch, see if you can figure out why. What happens to her here that sets her on the path of self-destruction? Okay, here it is.
James.
Mary! Oh. Maria, I thought... Sorry. Anyway, I'm glad you're alive.
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway? I was almost killed back there. I have never been so scared in my whole life. All you care about is that dead wife of yours. You couldn't care less about me, could you?
No, I just...
Then stay with me. Don't leave me alone again. You're supposed to take care of me. So what about Laura? You found her?
Yeah, but she ran away.
What? We have to find her.
Yeah, you really seem to care about that girl. Do you know her?
I'd never met her before. I just feel sorry for her. She's all alone, and I don't know, for some reason I feel like it's up to me to protect her.
Maria is extremely relieved to be reunited with James, and at first he is happy to see her too, because he mistakes her for Mary. When he realizes his mistake, he makes no attempt to disguise his disappointment. Through his body language and words, he makes it very obvious that he is not happy to see her, that he does not want her, and she is understandably upset. The only other person in her world, the person she is supposed to be with, just does not care about her well-being. That line, "You're supposed to take care of me," is very telling. From her perspective, James is not fulfilling the role set out for him. He is not seduced by her charms. He is not falling in love with her. He is not protecting her, and still he pulls away. This scene also reveals the nature of her relationship with Laura, why she is so focused on rescuing the girl. It is instinctual. She has this instinct, this feeling that she is supposed to protect her. This is a piece of Mary, genuinely reborn in Maria's psychology. As we will learn later, Mary was something of a surrogate mother to Laura. They had a close relationship. Mary even wanted to adopt her, and these feelings have been passed on to Maria, feelings that James does not know anything about. He had never met Laura. He was not aware of their relationship. This reveals that Maria is more than just a manifestation of his feelings and his memories. There are pieces of the true Mary inside of her too, and it also has to do with loneliness. Laura is left all alone, which is the thing Maria fears most. Her worst case scenario is being left alone in this nightmare world, with no one to care for her, no one to be with. She wants to save this girl she's never even met from that fate. This is Maria at her best, her most benevolent, and it is unfortunate that the town of Silent Hill never allows her to more fully express these feelings. She is destroyed before she ever gets a chance to be a better version of herself. Soon after this scene, Maria is killed by Pyramid Head, and I swear I have seen fans say things like, "Oh, Pyramid Head is such a great guy. He is just helping James out by brutally murdering this defenseless woman in the most grotesque and terrifying and traumatic way possible. He has to show James that she is fake, which is, somehow accomplished by torturing and killing her for no reason." So let's try to look at this story from Maria's perspective. As we see in the Born of a Wish prologue, she wakes up in this empty town full of monsters. She does not know what she is doing here or why she is all alone. She does not understand any of this. She meets James, the only other living person around, not counting the one dude who was in the Baldwin mansion who sent her on a bunch of weird fetch quests and who we're not going to talk about, and she feels some connection to James. She knows she is supposed to be with him. She can feel it, but he keeps pushing her away no matter what she tries. He abandons her, leaves her behind in a nightmare world, makes it clear that he does not care about her when they are reunited. And then, all of a sudden, she is being chased through a labyrinth by this terrifying monster. She does not know what Pyramid Head is or why it wants to hurt her. Silent Hill will not let her escape. So she dies in terror and pain and dread in one of the worst ways possible, never truly understanding the nature of her own existence, why any of this is happening to her, why she is being targeted this way. From Maria's perspective, this is a truly horrific story. Moving forward in her next appearance, we will see a Maria who has transformed. All of her positive qualities, her playfulness, her flirtiness, her protectiveness have vanished. And of course they have. In the exact same way that the town of Silent Hill breaks both Eddie and Angela, the way it turns them onto the paths of paranoia, murder, and suicide, it breaks Maria too. And just like that statue of the woman, it is through no fault of her own. What did she do to deserve this terrible fate? Unlike James, she did not kill anybody. Unlike Eddie, she did not poison some dog. She never hurt anyone. But somehow, by whatever power that rules over Silent Hill's other world, Maria is reborn in the Labyrinth. And we are going to watch that scene together now. As we watch, ask yourself, is this even the same person? Do the developers really want us to believe that this is the same Maria who died in the basement underneath the hospital? Okay, here it is.
Maria? Maria! I thought that thing killed you. Are you hurt?
Not at all, silly.
But the thing... It stabbed you. There was blood everywhere.
Stabbed me? What do you mean?
It chased us to the elevator and then...
James, what are you talking about?
Just before. Don't you remember?
James? Honey? Did something happen to you? After we got separated in that long hallway? Are you confusing me with someone else? You were always so forgetful. Remember that time in the hotel?
Maria?
You said you took everything. But you forgot that videotape we made. I wonder if it's still there.
How do you know about that? Aren't you Maria?
I'm not your Mary.
So you are Maria.
I am. If you want me to be.
All I want from you is an answer.
Doesn't matter who I am. I am here for you, James. See? I'm real. Don't you want to touch me?
I don't know.
Well, if you happen to make up your mind, I'll be waiting.
It has long been my theory that this is not the same Maria as before. That character is dead and will stay dead. Just look at the way her behavior has changed. Notice how she seems to have completely forgotten about the existence of Laura. The way her memories of what happened underneath the hospital seem incomplete or incorrect. So yes, this is a new Maria, a new manifestation of James' emotions. And because of the trauma he has experienced during his time in Silent Hill, the terror, the confusion, the pain, his feelings are becoming more twisted and more warped and more disconnected from reality. And so this new version of Maria becomes more twisted and more warped too. She barely even behaves like a real person anymore. She has no reaction whatsoever to being trapped in a prison inside some bizarre nightmare labyrinth. She just sits there humming to herself as if, whoopity-doopity, everything is fine. The line between Maria and Mary has also been blurred to the point where it is difficult to tell them apart. The character switches from one to the other, from speaking in Mary's voice to speaking in Maria's voice. She has the memories of two different people in her head. I also want to discuss the framing of this shot. In film, just about any time you see a character through bars like this, that is a visual language which is meant to communicate to an audience that this character is trapped, not literally, but metaphorically somehow. A character trapped in a prison cell is not a powerful character, not a character in control of her own fate, not a character with the freedom to choose her own path. The visual language of this scene shows us that Maria is not the mastermind behind this plot. She is just as trapped in this nightmare as James is, who we also see framed between prison bars in this scene. Her dialogue here, "I'm not Mary, I'm whoever you want me to be, I'm here for you," reveals a lack of a solid identity, of individual personhood. I don't think Maria even knows who she is anymore. All she knows is that she exists for James' sake. Her entire existence revolves around him, around his desire for her. She has lost so much of the personality that defined her earlier. And in this scene, James' defenses finally begin to weaken. He can no longer resist her advances. Before, he was easily able to say no to her, to stay loyal to his wife. But by this point in the story, Silent Hill is breaking him down too. After navigating the labyrinth and reaching the other side of that prison cell, James finds Maria already dead, apparently killed by the same disease that killed his wife. This version of Maria only lived for a couple hours, if even that long. Most insects are granted longer lives than she had. She has a truly doomed existence. At first, James is overcome with emotion upon seeing her dead body. He lovingly caresses her hand, but then his grief slowly dissipates, as if he is realizing, wait a second, this is not my wife. I do not love this woman. And just like that, he forgets her and moves on, once again focused on finding Mary instead. In the end, Maria does not even have someone to grieve for her after she is dead. When she dies, she is just gone. Except not, because Silent Hill keeps bringing her back and killing her again and again. Once again, let's try to look at this from Maria's perspective. This is a terrible existence. You awake over and over into a world you do not understand, alone and unloved, only to die again a couple hours later, either succumb to a painful illness or brutally murdered and executed for crimes you didn't even know you committed. There is no character in Silent Hill 2 who gets a shorter end of the stick than Maria. Is it really any surprise that she transforms into a monster at the end? Speaking of which, let's move on to that ending, to Maria's final scene. When James has finally overcome his denial, accepted the truth that he was the one who killed his wife, and is ready to face the future, whatever that future might be. Now, there are a couple different ways this final interaction can play out, depending on which ending you get. I am going to play the leave ending version of the scene for us, because I think, from Maria's perspective, this is the most tragic version. In this ending, James is allowed to leave the town with Laura, to go live happily ever after, to let go of the past and move on. And that includes letting go of Maria too. Her existence no longer has any purpose. Just like Pyramid Head, she is supposed to self-destruct, to disappear, as if she never existed at all. But unlike Pyramid Head, Maria has an individual will of her own. She has thoughts and feelings. She does not want to disappear. She refuses to let James go, because it would mean the end of her own life too. And that is what transforms her into the final antagonist of the story. So let's watch the scene together now. Here it is.
Mary? I have missed you so much.
I've missed you too. We can finally be together. Forever.
No.
James. Honey. What's wrong?
I'm sorry. I know you tried,
James, please.
but she's gone. I know that now.
Stop it.
And I can't just keep pretending.
Shut up! What do you want? Do you even know anymore? I'm yours. I'm here for you. So what if I'm not her? I can give you what she never could. I can be better than her. What else do you want me to be? What else can I be?
I am so sorry, Maria. I really am. But this has to stop. It's time to let it go.
No.
What?
I won't let you do this to me. I won't let you go. I can't!
At First, Maria makes one final attempt at seduction. If she cannot seduce him as Maria, cannot persuade him to choose her over Mary, then she will become Mary, become exactly what he wants. And it still does not work. James easily sees through the ruse and once again refuses her. Maria makes one more desperate last attempt. I can be better than her. I can give you what she couldn't. I can be anything you want. She tries begging. She tries crying. She tries the damsel in distress act again. In this moment, she appears pathetic, pleading, and almost frantic in her behavior, trying anything and everything to get him to stay with her, and none of it works. He does not want her. And then her dialogue turns truly sinister. No, I won't just give up and disappear the way Pyramid Head did. I am going to fight. In a lot of video games, when the villain transforms into a horrific monster during the final boss battle, that is the character revealing who they really were all along. Their new, disgusting outer form changes to match who they truly were deep down inside. But I do not think that applies to this scene. I do not believe Maria was a monster all along. I am going to make a comparison to Eddie. He is a character who begins the story as sort of pathetic, but not actively dangerous or murderous. He is mostly just a scared kid who is running away from his problems. But his journey through the nightmare of Silent Hill, his experience of being confronted by his crimes, by the worst parts of himself, by his worst memories, causes his personality to disintegrate. By the end, he becomes a monster too, a paranoid and pathetic murderer who kills because it is the only way he can feel powerful, the only way to stop feeling like such a loser. This is what Silent Hill does to people. Even though she is a creation of Silent Hill, Maria is not immune to the town's corrosive effects. The pain, the terror, the loneliness, and the frustration she has experienced here transforms her into something worse than what she started out as. In the end, after the battle is over, she is left powerless and weak, unable to even lift herself off the ground, unable to do anything other than call out James' name over and over again, a final, hopeless plea before he kills her for the last time. It is one of the saddest and most pitiful ends I've ever seen for a video game villain. To me, Maria was always the most tragic character in Silent Hill 2. Unlike all these other characters, she is not being punished for crimes she committed in her past. She was not drawn into Silent Hill from outside. She was never given a choice to come here. She was born here. But there is another ending. One where Maria succeeds, where she actually does convince James to choose her over his wife, where he refuses to let go and she actually gets to leave the town with him. Let's watch that one together to see if this is her happy ending. Here it is.
Better do something about that cough.
So no, this is not a happy ending at all. That final line from James, "You better do something about that cough," is so ugly and so abrasive and so unkind. It makes you hate him. You can already tell this is going to be a toxic and unhealthy relationship, not based on love, but instead on selfish need, a refusal to let go of the past. And it is also a relationship that is not going to last. The cough suggests that Maria is infected with the same illness that Mary had, and that she has already been condemned to die in the same long, drawn-out, painful way that Mary did. So there is no version of this story where Maria gets a happy ending. She was doomed to a life of pain and suffering right from the very beginning, and never had any chance to escape. And that is the end of my analysis of Maria's character. I have one more video on the Silent Hill 2 remake planned. This will be a more general story analysis in which I will discuss James, Angela, Eddie, and Laura, so see you then.